Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
in today's episode 190 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/2for1 studios. Guys, it's the best place to consume all the content. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. That way, you're all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as the cool content at 2 for 1 Studios. And if you didn't know, listeners, let's be honest, you probably did not. We are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Kapow.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
The other day on Reddit, I'm on the Arkansas and like the Little Rocks Reddits, and someone was asking about, what other comic shops are in Little Rock, and I got to reply Kapow, and so I was just like, man, I wish I could have. I almost thought about being like, Kapow, they sponsor our podcast, take a listen, but I don't know. That just felt.
I don't know why you didn't. You're a horrible businessman.
I should have. I know.
I take every shameless opportunity to plug our podcast.
Yeah.
I'm at a restaurant. Someone.
I'm
gives
gonna
me
go back. I'm gonna edit the comment.
You should,
Yeah.
and then I'll go upvote it. So we'll see what happens.
Beautiful.
Yeah, perfect. So Daniel, it's episode 190, and we're talking Disney Plus's new hit TV show, Echo. I'm not sure it's a hit actually. I know it did well in terms of it's like their number one show when it premiered on Hulu and Disney Plus at the same time.
So combined audiences, it was number one.
I don't know what that means though, honestly. But all I know is how we feel about it. And so, listeners, we have not watched the full 5-episode series. We'll see if we ever come back and talk about this once we complete it. If we complete it, I'll complete it. But Daniel, what's your initial impressions of Echo episode 1 and 2? And also, I want you to kind of talk about what were your expectations going into this, and just a little bit of that flavor as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had very little expectation coming into this. I think because, for one, it's just a character I'm not connected with already, and Marvel has been in their slump. You know what I mean? And so I'm just not expecting something that's going to grab me. And I think that was pretty much right on. I think, there's things that I do like about it. Okay. I like the Native American kind of mythology stuff. I think that's great and very interesting. And I'm curious how that's going to play into her character. I didn't think she had powers, but now the show is making me think she has some kind of mystical ability. You know what I mean? So I'm enjoying that. I would say across the board, the acting's pretty good. Not like blowing me away, but I've seen much worse in Marvel shows. I think the main thing is I'm just having a hard time being super interested in the plot. You know what I'm saying? It's nice getting Vincent D'Onofrio back. That's pleasant. I always like him. So maybe, if he's more in these next, the final 3 episodes, maybe my opinion will change a bit. But I think it just overall, it kind of feels just a little bit of a drop in the bucket compared to the playgrounds Marvel usually plays in with their shows, just in terms of impact and stuff like that. So I mean, it's not offending me. Listen, there's been much worse. Secret Invasion happened. Okay, this is not. I would say this is considerably better than Secret Invasion, just because I think overall it is being what it's wanting to be. I think overall it's accomplishing its own kind of goals. But at the same time, I mean, is it a little weird that every character she ever meets already knows sign language? A little bit. It's just like this whole town knows sign language, but she's the only girl that is apparently deaf. And then some of the interpersonal family stuff feels a little melodramatic. It's kind of coming that, well, characters just aren't communicating and that's going to cause all the problems kind of thing. But overall, like I said, it's not horrible, but I also don't feel like it's much to write home, for anyway.
Yeah, let me kind of work backwards here on some of the things you said. Just kind of start off,
Yeah.
for me, if people remember, it's been so long now, it feels like, but
Right.
this is a spin-off of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget that Hawkeye was also a TV show.
Yeah.
And I remember when that show dropped, we were lukewarm on that. I think we liked a few episodes in it, but I think overall it didn't hit with us like it should have.
Right.
And I remember thinking when the announcement happened, this was the same announcement, I believe, when King Dynasty was announced and Secret Wars was
Okay.
announced.
Okay.
And we got Echo announcement, we got an Ironheart announcement, we got an Agatha. At the time it was
House of
something of Darkness. Now it's
Yeah.
Darkhold
Yeah.
Diaries is the name of it.
Uh,
I remember thinking like, okay, like why are we spending resources on characters like Echo and characters like Agatha? And I would say that the most appealing thing to me is the Native American roots in Echo,
right. Right.
because I think that is underrepresented, especially in comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
And us being in the South, we have, I think, a lot of connection to that in a lot of ways
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
And so I think um, that part excites me, and I always like seeing that part of that parts of world, in cinema. I think a great version of that is Wind River, and there's a lot of actors from Wind River in the show, and because um, they kind of pop up in a lot of Native American kind of shows, and they're great actors. And so
Yeah.
it's nice, yeah.
The guy that plays, I guess, is that her dad or her adoptive dad? The guy that dies, in the very
And
first
in
episode.
Hawkeye,
Yeah, in
yeah.
Hawkeye. Yeah, we get the little bit of a backstory with him. He's great in Fargo season
Mm,
2, I believe it is. Or no, maybe season 2. He's like one of the bad guys, and he's
yeah.
fantastic. So no, yeah,
He's
I agree. It's nice to get more Native American representation.
he has a prominent role in Yellowstone. He's the second hand. He's like the right hand man to
Oh, okay.
one of the guys that's kind of challenging Kevin Costner's character. He's great in that too. And yeah, so I think that stuff's fun. Again, I kind of go back to why are we spending money on this? I can make an argument
Yeah.
for Ironheart, even though I still don't. I'm not excited for that show or character.
Right. Right.
Not really, but I can make an argument for that versus Echo. And I don't know the budget. Maybe you can look it up as I'm talking for Echo. I'm going to assume it's close to 100 to 150 million. We do know that they basically cut down the show and re-edited it to, I think, 5 episodes. It may have been 6 originally.
40
Uh,
million is what I'm reading.
total?
The total budget of around 40 million. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's much better. That's actually much better.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I would
okay.
think still feels like a lot to me, but for
I
what the
mean,
show is, but yeah.
if you're doing, 10 million an episode, that is a lot of money, but I know that makes me feel a little better at least. At least,
Yeah.
Secret Invasion was $200 million, and that's what we got there.
Yeah. Or
Um, and,
She-Hulk. How much
yeah,
was
and to be
She-Hulk?
fair, we're not done with the show yet. So I've heard that the ending leaves a lot to be desired because of things we've already touched upon with the power stuff. Um, I think it's a kind of an issue for me there too, is that I don't think they should have gave her powers. I
Yeah.
think her character may have powers in the comics. I'm not quite sure. But I think it just I don't know. She was cooler as like a street character to me, like Daredevil and Spider-Man.
Right. Right.
Spider-Man has powers, obviously, but you know what I mean. Um, and they've been kind of building the show as like a Daredevil point 0.5 kind of thing, right? Where it's kind of bridging the gap between potentially Hawkeye and bringing in Daredevil for what now looks like season 4 of Daredevil.
Oh
And
yeah. Right.
I really enjoyed that opening scene with Daredevil in it. I think they kind of nail his movement, his aesthetic, and like it's unique enough to that character where I'm like, okay. And it felt more like the Netflix show than
Sure.
the She-Hulk.
I will say it did not look like any of those punches made impact in that fight scene. I will say, like,
Mm.
I enjoyed Daredevil's like personality and his quippiness, and I enjoyed his look when he moved, but I did the fight scene itself, just in terms of feeling realistic, actually I would left a lot to be desired for me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And kind of to go into back to like why this character is important. I think I would care more about the show and be more invested if I knew that Echo had a future in some way. But
Sure.
it feels like this is just a one-off for a character, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But I think the appeal for the MCU is that these characters will eventually collide in some way. And I just have a hard time also seeing her going up against a threat like King or Thanos. And again, I haven't seen the last episode. Maybe I could be wrong, but you know, River has been home with me a lot the last couple of days, and me being me, I'm getting tired of watching Baby Shark and
Sure.
Blippi. So I'm like, hey, you want to watch Spider-Man versus whatever character? So I just show him the action scenes of all these movies.
Yeah.
And so like last night we were watching clips or scenes from Iron Man 2. We watched the final fight that. We watched the final fight in Iron Man 3. We watched the final fight in Age of Ultron. We're watching stuff like that. And I'm like, man, when you're doing that and there's a show like when you're watching that like I am and there's a show like Echo Out, you're just constantly reminded like, oh yeah, this was the golden time of the MCU where it felt like, not everyone loves even any of those three movies actually. People were really lukewarm on Iron Man 2. There's a lot of backlash for Iron Man 3, even though I think it's great now. And then Age of Ultron also people were lukewarm on it compared to the first film, which I also think it's great now too. I've kind of been an apologist for the most part for it.
Yeah.
But even then, it's kind of like I don't know. It felt like every scene was so important to us at the time. Like we have to watch this because it means something so important. And I feel
Yeah.
like the MCU has just lost that. I haven't even finished What If. Like I've watched the first episode of that whole thing, and again, that kind of feels like it matters less too because you know those stories they may or may not matter at all. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in illustrating it that like in Marvel's phase 2 or kind of in their heyday, every moment had felt so important and every kind of moment felt like it would be circled back to. It will have some sort of impact or some sort of ripple. And I think Age of Ultron's a great example of that where, it's made better by the subsequent movies that came after it and then
100%.
built off some of those plot threads that were started in Age of Ultron. And so now to where it feels like, well, what actually does matter? We just had an Eternals movies 2 years ago, and that seemed like a big deal, but it doesn't seem to matter. Like, and you can go through this laundry list of shows where you're like, I mean, Secret Invasion, I mean, maybe they'll follow up on that Rhodey thing. I'm sure they will to an extent, but it's like how much of anything else in that mattered.
What a horrible decision.
Well, and just a horrible version of what Secret Invasion could have been. It was just the most boring.
And here's the thing:
boring
it's not
iteration.
It's not even a horrible decision. It's just that the execution of that, and then also it kind of it robs a little bit of it that retroactively makes Endgame less special, and even Infinity War, but mainly Endgame when Tony dies, and
Sure.
And yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't know if those threads will be picked up. And I think the Rhodey one will 100% because of Armor Wars and even probably Ironheart. But I just don't think, and again, they've put themselves in a position where a thread like that, which is like the Doctor Strange thread and with WandaVision, it's kind of like I think they're putting like even the Marvels. It's like you do Miss Marvel and you do Photon from WandaVision. It's like not everyone watched WandaVision, and people aren't going to connect to the Marvel as much. And the Marvels is their lowest grossing film of all time.
Yeah.
It's made $206 million, which is not even the budget.
No, and from what I
don't think.
I haven't seen it yet, but it should be on streaming soon, I think.
It's already out streaming. It's not on Disney Plus yet, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
By all accounts, it seems to be a much better movie than The Flash was, like in terms of being an entertaining superhero movie. But though, in even maybe Aquaman 2.
I have way less issues with the Marvels than I did with the Flash. Even though the Flash, it's like this thing where there's like three things in it that are so good that
Yeah,
like
sure,
I'm like,
sure.
damn,
They cover up some of the
damn.
cracks. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, not all the cracks, but
yeah.
just having Michael Keaton's Batman in there is just
Sure,
like,
sure.
but but the Marvels is got it's not bad. I had a decent time with it actually. I
Yeah,
think
I
I got
mean,
a lot I
just
got
from
a lot more hate than it deserved.
from appearances, it looks like a decently done movie with just characters not many that people are not that many people are interested in.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
I mean,
don't get me wrong. They could have made it way better. Like they could have made the stakes feel.
sure,
Trust me, it could have been better, but it's not the worst thing Marvel's done.
sure. Um, yeah, I think the box office numbers is just more of a telling of the appetite for
I
Marvel
think it's
right
what it
now.
is. I think it's
Um,
that. I think there's people kind of blame the strikes. I'm not sure it's all on that. Oppenheimer come out, which I watched again last night. Oppenheimer come out and
still love it.
yeah, dude, best movie of the year. It come out and it's almost made $1 billion.
Yeah,
It's a 3 hour movie,
yeah,
and and it's like it's a movie just people of men talking in small
yeah,
rooms.
yeah, yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah,
It's
no,
3 hours long.
it is. Well, yeah, and I think I remember seeing. I don't know how recent it was. Some kind of report where people were talking about like one of the big differences between current Marvel and old Marvel is that old Marvel never went to set without a script, none, and that like the consistent
That's
thing.
not true at all. That's not true.
Well,
Even
okay,
Iron Man 1 was being rewritten as they were going. They didn't even have a finished
s-
script for Iron Man 1.
well, some of that's normal, right? If you're rewriting the ending, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Like
know.
the ending being in flux to me is a lot different than saying, you know, we don't exactly know what this show is yet, but we got to hit a schedule and so we got to start filming.
Yeah, I mean, but here's another example. Not that I mean, you're wrong. You're not. Hey, you're not wrong in saying it's an issue. It shouldn't fucking happen. But Spider-Man: No Way Home also, they went and they had no idea what the third act was going to be, or
Sure,
if you know what I'm saying. So I mean, like that. There's the exception where they get away with it. That could be us falling for nostalgia, but
sure.
but I agree with you. That bottom line, it should never happen that way.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer did not happen that way. You know,
No, right, right.
no.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're fine. I mean, I think, like I said, I mean, and I don't even know if like there's shows where I think that was clearly how it was. I think with like Secret Invasion, it really felt like that show did not know where it was going half the time. Um, and just so many scenes felt pointless or just talking and then like, yeah. I think with Echo, coming back to Echo, I don't necessarily
Yeah.
feel like I don't feel necessarily the feelings of oh it's super rushed as much as I just feel like it's just okay content. And I think that's the hard part too is what we've talked about in the past is that Marvel has become content for Disney. It's a content farm for them. And I think that's why we're seeing all these low effort or at least uh suspicious writing in these projects we've been seeing coming on Disney Plus for a while. And I think this is almost like the first show that feels like, maybe other than WandaVision, that feels like, well, yeah, this should be on Disney Plus. This idea should live on Disney Plus. This really is not a feature film idea. This is really not a feature film character or a feature film story. This works as a quaint little 5-episode, miniseries. And I think there's room for that.
I'll give you that. I mean, that's like a nice argument for of like, hey, this is not super important, and so it should be on Disney Plus.
Yes.
And this character may or may not appear again. That's an argument. I think it does. That does lessen the blow for me, but I think we've also been told so far that everything is important, everything is connected.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
what's our
so
next Marvel show after this one? Is it
I think it's Agatha. I could be wrong.
Agatha
I think
or
it's
is Ironheart still a ways out?
that I think is pushed to 2025,
Oh, okay.
and they're just now fixing to restart shooting Daredevil season 4,
I
which
saw
that's
that.
interesting. It
And
looks like
then all the announcements of who's now coming back for that.
yeah, Foggy and Karen, it looks like. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like that's what's interesting too. There's been even a few conflicting reports. All of a sudden, all the Defender shows are now on the MCU timeline.
Well, and
But they're
they're
not
not completely canon. Is that what
in the
what I saw?
phases. That's the thing. That's the problem. We're in this place where I mean, like there was the official Marvel book that just came out like last year,
Yeah,
2 years, or
yeah,
last year and a half, and it was like, here's the timeline. I didn't mention that, and then all of a sudden now these are in the thing, and it seems like a direct result of. I think even Vincent D'Onofrio said like they were all talking about how do we revamp Daredevil. Like we shouldn't ignore season 1 through 3, right? We should
sure.
build off of that, and which is I'm not, hey, of all things considered if they wanted to say like, hey, season 1, 2, and 3 Daredevil came to the MCU, I'm like, there is way worse content than those 3 seasons in the MCU.
Sure.
Infinitely, like I probably those 3 seasons are probably better than most of the Disney Plus series.
I would say the majority, yeah.
The majority, yeah. I mean, I love season 1, I think that's bad.
Yeah,
That's
I think
first season is
this
better than most of season ones. There's no season twos besides Loki of all those others.
yeah. Right, right, right. I mean,
Acting,
I would put, stuff like Moon Knight, WandaVision, maybe Loki above that, but pretty much everything else, I would say Daredevil was more interesting than those and just had was doing more interesting things with their characters. Now, not everything worked in Daredevil.
no,
There I didn't love the arc with where he met like his old master, the blind dude. Like that stuff was a little rough for me. And I mean, I know I feel like I'm the lone voice in the wilderness, but season 3, some of the dialogue and the moments with the characters was so melodramatic that it was just hard for me to believe a little
I know
bit.
you have issues with season 3.
And just a little bit of just like they made Daredevil into like an edgy, nice guy a little bit that just felt a little bit like, no. But the
Season
good
3
part,
was interesting.
the
I
good
liked it though.
where Daredevil worked, it worked well, right?
Yeah.
And the things that worked really for me overshadowed most of the things that didn't. And I think, if you comparing that to something like the Marvel shows, I mean, I do think Daredevil felt more gritty, right? It felt a bit more dirty and dark.
It felt actually gritty where they're like Echo is rated R and like you're going to blow your mind. Audience.
Yes.
Remember that trailer? Like it's rated R and you have to turn off your parental controls to watch this show. Remember that?
I don't. That was a commercial for Netflix Daredevil.
No, for Echo. I sent it to you guys. You can
I
watch
missed.
that?
I must have not. Is it for?
Yeah.
Is Echo rated R?
Oh, I mean, it's rated like TV, whatever. The rated R version of that. That's like the commercial they dropped January 1 was like, you're going to have to turn off your parental controls to watch this shit. It's like super edgelord movie voice guy. You didn't watch that? You're going to have to watch it.
I didn't watch that. You're going to have to turn off your parental controls. So was that an advertisement to kids that don't own the account? Like, is that the only people they're speaking to? Because
I think it was for adults. I think it was like, hey,
who puts parental controls on the adult profile?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is data saying there's tons of people that just like they have an account and it's just for their kids.
Yes, I'm sure that's true.
But yeah, so I can't wait to send it to you now. That's going to paint your mindset for the next 3 episodes. But yeah,
I've seen nothing in the first 2 episodes that warrants that at all.
Yeah. Well, most of their footage is from I think the first episode. Which hey, let's talk about that real quick. I think again, every night I'm like I need to watch episode 3 of Echo. I'm like, but it's only 45 minutes. But I'm like, I'm really tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not even sure if it's like I want to pay attention to it or I'm like, do I want to spend my last minutes on this earth tonight watching Echo? And it's the first episode's like a giant recap of like Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And it's just it doesn't really work 100%. Again, I'm pretty sure based on spoilers from Travis is that's all the Daredevil will get the entire season.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that's unfortunate because it's unfortunate, but almost expected,
Yeah. It is.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like the first episode's a recap. Episode 2 is kind of like this. We're getting back to basics. We're kind of learning. We're kind of starting the roadmap to.
We figured out like
becoming
what
the queen.
Yeah, right. We got introduced to like the the plot thread of the season, or what Echo's goals are, which is to become the queen. Which I
which
don't
I'm
think they've.
actually like.
It's interesting, but I mean, I haven't. I have no reason. Why does she want to be that? Like, what? You know what I
You're
mean? Like,
right.
I think there's nothing that I can see that's like motivating that in an interesting way. Yes, it will probably be fun to see her take on Kingpin and see Kingpin, his response to that. But yeah, I mean, it does feel a little bit just like, well,
I
this is the
suspect we'll
obvious
get
thing.
I suspect we'll get scenes with her and Kingpin. It's like him basically grooming her
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a higher position. Those kind of things. I do feel like that story of like Kingpin and Echo doesn't mesh with the Kingpin that we saw in those first
Yeah.
three seasons of Daredevil. And now I guess I didn't realize this, but now they're bringing back the actress that was his wife in season 1 through 3, Vanessa.
Huh.
And it
Okay.
just kind of feels, yeah, it just kind of feels like, I don't know. I'm really hoping Daredevil is good. And they didn't, I mean, whenever someone tells me that there's like, let's just say there's 18 episodes, whatever it was, 20, whatever episodes,
Yeah.
and he doesn't suit up till episode 5. I'm kind of like, yeah, I see that as a problem. But
Yeah. Yeah.
also, how does that decision ever get to the finish line?
And
Who
maybe it won't.
says
Maybe it won't. You know
no?
what I
It won't
mean?
now. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole
Yeah.
thing has been it's been scrapped,
Oh,
right?
that
Like,
was
I
the
mean,
old plan. Right. 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 Right.
that was
Right.
the old plan. Like, how does that get there? But real quick, let me end with this, or
Sure.
let's have some fun. Let's make it better. Um, I think then let's not fuck Echo. Let's talk about Daredevil.
Okay.
So, I think a good version of Spider-Man 4. We've
Mm-hmm.
kind of heard rumors waffling that it could be Daredevil and Spider-Man teaming up to fight Kingpin, right? Like more of a
I
streets
like it.
level kind of thing. And even Ant-Man could maybe be involved, but I don't really care if he's in it. I'd rather just have Daredevil and Spider-Man. We don't need
Yeah. Yeah.
Ant-Man. But
The only other one I would accept is like Logan. I would take him in there.
you mean Logan from Wolverine
Oh
Logan?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I'll
Oh yeah.
I'll watch
Oh yeah.
Wolverine paint, you know? So,
Paint.
well, I mean, like I'll watch him. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
paint. I'll
No.
watch him
Yeah.
paint. Yeah, paint on a wall or something.
Yeah.
But I think so. Imagine that, and imagine Spider-Man. Imagine that he's bitter. Imagine he's bitter from
Sure.
losing MJ and his friends and everyone who knows him, and the Kingpin is rising back up again. Daredevil's involved, and remember, Daredevil's Catholic, right? Daredevil has a no-kill policy.
Yeah.
And imagine that Spider-Man gets the black suit and it's Spider-Man going through the underbelly of New York with the black suit and Daredevil has to pull him back.
Yeah.
This dawned on me a second ago, but classically this happened in Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, but classically Spider-Man loses the black suit in a
Mm-hmm.
church and Daredevil's
Mm-hmm.
Catholic. And so just imagine, I can just see it. I can see that being a banger of a movie where you do that and then you set up. I mean, that's a great
And
idea, I
you just
think.
kind of leave the Venom arc for the next movie kind
Yeah,
of thing.
you do not bring in Venom into
I think
this.
they don't have the balls for that, to be honest. Like
It's not
that
the
is like the
balls.
confident storytelling. That's teasing something but not giving the audience like the fruition of it for another movie.
Oh,
And I feel
no, I
like
think they
that to
absolutely learned
me,
their lesson in Spider-Man 3 because that's what everyone complained about in Spider-Man 3 is that they had Venom in there too, and Sandman and New Goblin and all these things. That being said, it hasn't stopped Marvel yet. It didn't stop Marvel. It didn't stop Sony Marvel from doing Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Green Goblin and Electro and Rhino.
yeah,
But then also it hasn't stopped Marvel Studios from like throwing in every character possible. But I would like to think they have the restraint to know that that's too much, and it would just tee up another. It would tee
it'd
up
be
what
great.
everybody wants to see is Venom versus Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, if you just tell a really good, street level story with street level stakes, and but with just really good action and fun team up battles. I mean, I do think it's like Kingpin to me doesn't seem like that much of a match to me. So like I do wonder like how do they escalate it to make it feel
Yeah, physically,
more
no.
even. I mean, he's got resources, right? And he's got
Yeah. If they
basically an
weren't
army.
stupid, here's what they could have done.
Yeah.
They could have had, they could have meshed these ideas, and they could have had, if Aaron Taylor Johnson's Craven movie hadn't been coming out, they could have had Craven coming to hunt Spider-Man while Spider-Man is trying to take down Kingpin,
That would have worked good.
And
Yeah.
then Kingpin enlists Spider-Man or enlists Craven basically as his lackey. And it's like it's not really a lackey situation. It's kind of like he's, manipulating the situation. So you
Yeah.
have Spidey versus Craven, Daredevil versus Kingpin again.
Sure. Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know, does Kingpin end up in prison at the end of Echo? Because like this man doesn't fucking win ever.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, they've still got to explain. I guess now they've got to explain how he got out after season 3 of Daredevil. So,
Yep.
I mean, I can buy it. Yes, a well-connected, rich criminal mastermind is good at, getting out of jail, on technicalities and such like that. But yeah,
Maybe even a more simple way. That way you can save the Craven stuff. And now I think this is what I would do if I was in charge, because I wouldn't do Craven just because of the Sony movie. But I would just bring back the guy from Breaking Bad who is Scorpion in No Way Home or Homecoming, and have him be the lackey, have him be the muscle.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
he's in a Scorpion suit versus Daredevil and Spider-Man. Again, Kingpin's the main boss. But you do that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a great fucking movie right there, dude.
Yeah.
Black suit, street level versus, yeah, that sounds like a fucking movie, and I would watch the shit out of that movie.
yep. No, that'd be awesome.
That's an easy, like, we just did that. We just come up with that. We didn't get paid anything. I keep saying
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you could even do it where like Kingpin somehow finds out who Pete, like he somehow discovers who
Yeah.
Peter was before everyone made them forget, or even thing like that. And so the personal stakes could be Kingpin, like, threatening to hurt the people that don't even know he exists, but that he cares about, kind of stuff. I mean,
Could be.
where
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
it's personal stakes. It means so much to him and the character, but it's not like the world's gonna end if the bad guy wins, kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would love, I think there's reports that Zendaya is coming back. I would love it
she's
if,
gonna-
if she,
He's
if
gonna
she
be
was in it.
tailing her. He's gonna be like stalking her, but in a nice way. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Amazing Spider-Man when he's following Gwen around in Spider-Man 2. Which is, yeah, it is kind of creepy. Like, yeah, but we'll allow it.
But
We'll
he's
allow
a
it for Spider-Man.
superhero, and he never does the wrong thing, so it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I don't think she should not remember him in this movie. Like it should, maybe the next movie, maybe when Venom's involved. But
Yeah, they need to make this. They need to make the consequences stick a little longer.
yeah, 100%.
than
Yeah,
one movie.
Yeah, they need to do that. Again, then let's just go to the next one. Obviously, Spider-Man 5, you bring, and you could bring in like a cameo from Miles in Spider-Man 4. And you can bring in Eddie Brock maybe as a cameo or something like that. Like he's just a guy there taking photos or whatever. And you just kind of set up like these scenes with these characters, and like these things will pay off later. And then Spider-Man 5 is Eddie Brock gets the symbiote, and then maybe because it's like from a different universe, he knows that this is,
Sure.
I just figured it out. Since the symbiote's from a different universe, like he knows who Peter Parker's, and it's a hive mind, right? Across the multiverse. Maybe he knows that Peter's love is MJ. And so and then he goes after MJ, and she has no idea who Spider-Man is still. And then through that, she remembers.
Sure.
And it's like that. See, dude, Marvel.
I mean, I do think that I gotta think that eventually they would be working towards like maybe retiring Peter Parker for a little while and having a Miles Morales be the main Spider-Man for a few years. I think for one, because I don't know if Tom Holland wants to do this forever. I don't think so either. I think he wants to kind of have a more varied career than that. Especially when you just look at the movies he chooses outside of Marvel. They're all very dramatic, actor-driven kind of movies where he's really trying to kind of hone his craft. And so I just see him as not someone that wants to do this for another 10 years. But if they can get him for another couple of movies. And I mean, I could see a version where MJ finding out again, and Peter says like, okay, I'm going to retire now. I'm going to just live my life with MJ. I'm going to let you be the Spider-Man, and I'm going to just and of course it still leaves him in the wings to bring back for the team up movies if they can afford him at that point. But I think to me, I feel like that's got to be, well, I mean, I think it's I especially believe that because of the Spider-Verse movies, because Spider-Verse has made Miles Morales a household name. You know what I mean? And the Sony games. Like, so like there's so much more recognition for it. Also, you know, Disney loves being inclusive, or at least patting themselves on the back for being inclusive. And so it would offer an opportunity to look progressive to the world. I don't know. It just seems like that's obviously where we've got to be heading with that character.
Yeah, I think that's
and I
the
think
right
that
path.
I hope they do. I mean, I think they can do that well, and it'd be great.
As much as I love my characters riding off into the sunset forever and like not knowing what happened to them, it's always hard to explain in a universe where movies where this particular universe where the movies keep going, why didn't Peter show up? Like he would have showed up if this happened. And so even though it's heartbreaking, like, and it's hard having an MCU without Iron Man, like that is the right ending for that character.
Right.
And I think the right ending for Peter is either A, he dies, or B, he feels comfortable enough where his replacement is out there and there is a Spider-Man out in the world and he is living his life. And so I think that's what I would ideally like that too. And you really need to watch or play the Sony games, because I think they do a great job of setting up the Miles character and in a way that is a mentorship and like you know, looking for approval, but then also becoming an equal. And I think that is,
I mean, that probably needs to be its own movie, just the transition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I think that could be, you know, it could be we're in Venom where, you know, Venom is tearing shit up and he kills Miles's uncle or dad or whatever it is. And then Miles is on a, you know, so like that's like, you know, there's ways that do this organically where movie 6 is Tom Holland passing the torch and run off into the sunset. And then, you know, maybe by that time Secret Wars will already have happened. I don't know. But you want to have Secret Wars. You want, yeah. I think Secret Wars has already happened. But yeah, we just made a great trilogy.
Wasn't that hard, was it, Disney?
It really wasn't. Like that was not a bad idea. Like Daredevil, Venom, and then the last thing could be Doc Ock again or something, or it could be the Sinister Six versus 2 Spider-Man.
Maybe Venom and Carnage. I don't know. I mean, Venom is the hard part. Is Venom is the like ultimate Spidey bad guy. I don't feel like anyone.
I think it's Green Goblin.
You think so?
I mean, Venom's got the popularity of like it's Venom, but I think when you strip it down, it's always Green Goblin. It's always. Okay. That's why Green Goblin kills Aunt May in the last one.
Sure. I guess to me, Venom is more of the like on par match with Spider-Man. Like Venom's a more difficult guy to beat to me for Spider-Man than Green Goblin. You know, at the end of the day, you know, he's more of a match for who Spider-Man is and his abilities. And so I guess that's where it comes from a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they haven't even introduced us to the Osborns or Harry. I mean, Harry Osborn is a huge part of the Spider-Man mythos. I mean, that could be coming soon.
Well, I mean, according to No Way Home, it's like they
Oscorp doesn't exist, right? Yeah,
Oscorp doesn't exist. So look, there's that interesting thing,
or maybe it just doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. I mean, there's all. I mean, hey, there's 1,000 things we could do here. And again, also, I don't know if you know this, Daniel, but in 20 something days, Madam Web is coming out.
I was tangentially aware, and yeah, I'm keeping my distance. I'm trying to, you know, I don't feel safe when Madam Web's around, so I'm just trying to kind of protect myself, protect my heart.
Well, I forgot it. I keep forgetting about it. I keep seeing like these articles or I'm like, oh shit, that's coming out on Valentine's Day, which I'll tell you right now, I am not going to go see that on Valentine's Day. I
What a
wouldn't.
weird day to come out that.
I know, I agree. I wouldn't want to go.
Is it going to
I
be,
think
is
it's
it like, is it
50
like,
Shades of it's 50 Shades of Spider, dude. That's why. I mean, it's because of her. They're like, oh, 50 Shades of Grey people and Valentine's Day, they'll probably want to come out on this day. There's no
it's a
romance in that
girl
movie.
power movie, so maybe it's like they're marketing it towards all the single girls on on Valentine's Day. I mean,
I don't know. It's odd. It's odd.
it is
It's
odd,
super
yeah.
odd.
Not to
Yeah.
mention the idea is just, it's like
It could have been
it,
cool.
it could have been, but it's also it might be worse than all of the other ones Sony has done potentially. Like at a
It could
base
be.
level, at an idea level, it's the worst idea for any of their movies they've done yet. We'll see it about maybe they execute it perfectly and it's like good. I don't believe that will happen, but like at least it's like a Morbius movie. Okay, that's it. That's an interesting idea. What Craven the Hunter? Okay, I mean like they probably don't need their own movies, but that's an interesting idea. A young Madam Web who's got a what was that? It's
She
like
can
totally
see.
spies with girls with spider powers. Like that's the pitch, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh no, no, no. Let's not
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
it's almost it's not. It's almost as bad as the rumored Ant. It was rumored they were having discussions about it with the Aunt May movie, where it's like, oh, why? Like, why do we need that? You know?
It's almost like I wish they would do it, and there's just no superhero element at all, and it's just like a coming of age Aunt May story of her like being in college and like,
Yeah.
thinking she's in love, but then she isn't, and then it's just like this feel good. I'm living my life on my own and raising my young nephew,
My
but
nephew.
there's just like no acknowledgement to anything superhero. That would be funny.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I think one thing Sony doesn't understand. First of all, you can make anything good. You can make anything good.
Sure.
I've seen
Yeah.
terribly written things or characters. I'm like, that character's awful. And then I've read some. I'm like, okay, this writer somehow made this character
Yeah.
cool or good or whatever. But it's like not sometimes, Sony just has this inherent disregard for like what the purpose of some of these characters are. And not every character needs it's I know why. I know they don't need these spin-offs. They're doing it because they feel like they can make money doing it. That's the motivation behind it.
Yep.
But I just don't feel like this it's just it there's been no great response to these. I mean, Venom made $800 million. Don't get me wrong. It did great for them at the box office, which is still very upsetting to me.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't there's not been an interest or return from the fans from these movies. And Morbius
No, I mean
bombed.
they're cash grabs. Just at a basic,
They're cash
they're
cash
taking a
grabs with
property
no
that someone else made popular and profitable, and they're cashing in literally on the IP because every one of those movies is like a trailer starts with from the studio that brought you
yeah, you're
Homecoming. You
right.
know what I mean? It's just like it's so blatantly just saying let's just pretend we are also cool like the Tom Holland movies and just cash grab on these like bare bones ideas that have no there's no love being put in. It's like no one that loved these characters wrote or made these movies almost. You know what I mean? People that think it almost feels like these are made by people that think it's dumb and it almost comes through in it. And it just I don't know. It just it's frustrating. They'll never stop until they stop making money. You know what I mean? And that's frustrating
But they
too.
don't make money. That's the problem. I keep saying like I
Surely
don't
they're I mean maybe they're doing great on VOD or something, or maybe they stream really well. I mean,
maybe
there's got to be a
has to be ungodly
mathematical
well.
reason that they're still doing this. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like
I
they can't.
think
They
part of this wave is still like under the assumption that Kevin Feige was going to be like, yeah, you can have Spider-Man for these movies, and you guys can do your own Sinister Six versus Spider-Man thing, and like Vulture's going to come. Like, I think this was still, I think this is the remnants of that Spider-Man Civil War deal,
maybe
where they're like,
so.
we're going to launch our own Spider-Man universe, and we're going to make tons of money and then break away from Marvel. But now they realize they can't break away from Marvel because the backlash will be too big. They keep fucking everything up, and they keep going through some of these plans, and it's just not working out for them. I don't see Craven being a super big success. Morbius
No.
obviously bombed. This is going to bomb. I don't want these movies to bomb. I want them to be amazing, but
Sure.
it's going to bomb.
Yeah.
Venom did well considering the pandemic. Venom 2 did. Venom 1 did amazingly well. But those movies are like, I don't know how the second one got a higher Rotten Tomato score than the first one, but it's
Well,
like
and the first one,
butchering the character.
everyone was to some degree ignorant of what these movies would be before the first Venom. I mean, there was hope that maybe it'll be good. Maybe, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I think
I mean, I was
it
super
makes
excited
sense
for
it made the most because it was kind of their first foray into this world and no one realized what frauds they were. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, but I mean, it's sad, but like the hope is that they just they bottom out. They just they start losing money on these franchises, and so the best option is to just sell them back to Marvel. Though I mean, it's not like Marvel's like impressing me with their handling of everything either right now. I mean, yes, I think Marvel would do better, but I mean, you know, we're in a very I know we've said this, but just I think a market dip in superhero IP interest, you know. And at this point, I know we've said it, but it really feels like the DCU is one of the last hopes to kind of resurrect this trend. You know what I mean? And we'll see how that's all going to work. It feels like they are still trying to figure out their whole thing too. They can't decide what is and isn't canon. Sometimes it feels like, but yeah, no, it's not the best time to be a superhero media fan, at least a superhero movie TV fan. But I am holding out hope.
Daniel, I need to talk to you for like another 5 more minutes on this podcast because a couple things that popped in my head as you were talking. I was listening to you, and I do agree with you.
Yeah, I believe you.
First of all, I want to say that I actually enjoyed Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's not
I heard
perfect,
that.
but it's
Remember
a
you saying
fun
that.
time, and like it's going to be on VOD very soon. I think at the end of the month, and which is crazy. But it's almost made $400 million. So if it hits 400 million, it will still be higher grossing. It'll be the highest grossing DC film since the last Aquaman. If it hits 400 million, which it will do in like 2 weeks probably. So it will barely edge out Black Adam. So it's not any. It maybe recouped its partial of its money, but it's not a box office success in no way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Especially compared to the first Aquaman movie, which hit $1 billion. But I do want to talk about. Let's just switch from Marvel for a second because this is important. I kind of forgot about it. We haven't been on the pod in a while. How do you feel about the Mandalorian and Grogu announcement for the feature film?
Oh, I think they ran out of ideas right before they named it. I think I mean,
awful name. It is awful name.
It's an awful name, and I think I mentioned this in a text message. Like, I trust Jon Favreau as a director all day and night. I don't know if I trust him as a writer to deliver something that isn't cheesy, because I think I've not seen anything that he wrote by himself that I'm like, wow, that was really good.
Iron Man 1.
Okay, fair. Iron Man 1's good. So maybe if he remembers how to write like that, he'll be good. It's it's similar.
He wrote the first season of The Mandalorian, which
had what, 20 lines of dialogue total. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm not terribly excited for it, and I think that has more to do with what season 3 of Mandalorian was, and just in how they responded to the end of season 2, and Mando and Grogu parting and then getting back together before, all of that stuff is just made me a bit like, I mean, I hope they can make an interesting movie out of this. And, obviously it should be focused on Mando and Grogu. But I mean, I'm going to wait for a trailer to get excited about it, if that makes sense. And I think I'm more excited for Ahsoka season 2, even though Ahsoka season 1 wasn't perfect, but I am more excited for that than this, I think.
Yeah, I wish I could just have Filoni's ideas and Favreau directing season 2. So I don't
Execution. Yeah.
maybe yeah. See, I mean, I think Favreau will thrive in the format of a movie because I feel like he
Yeah.
even though he was decent at doing an episodic thing for Mando, I think that I don't know. I think my problem with season 3 obviously was that it didn't know if it wanted to be like this mythology show and that was building on it, or if it wanted to be this villain of the week kind of thing. And also, of course, the transition from 2 to 3 was not great, handled very
Yeah.
well. Um, but I guess I have questions for you because I think these are interesting
Hmm.
questions. One, there's rumors that we're still going to get a truncated season 4 that's going to lead into this movie. And it feels like,
Okay.
is this a wise move? I mean, I don't think I think if they make a movie that does well, they'll keep making a couple more movies.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think we'll get it on Disney Plus again in terms of like releasing. It will not release day in day
Sure.
out anymore on Disney Plus for sure.
No, 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 no.
But also, will those first 3 seasons being on there hurt the box office for this? Because will people think, oh, this will, even though we know it's not going to be on there quickly, will people think, oh, it's going to come here quickly, so why should I go see
Mm,
this?
I don't know, maybe. Or yeah, I mean I could see that a little bit, and I'm sure they're factoring that in a little bit, but um I feel like though if they do what all the trailers do now, which is like exclusively in theaters. You know what I mean? They're just all I feel like every trailer I see is like hyping up the fact that you can't stream
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
I
And
mean, I
so
would we said this on the pod, but I would have paid money to see the finale of season 2 of Mando in theaters. I would have done
sure,
that.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried I looked for tickets to go see the Anakin Skywalker episode of Ahsoka in theaters. Like I knew that
Oh
was
yeah, remember
next,
that.
and I was
Yeah.
like, I'll go if I can have a theater near me, but there was none near me going. Um,
Yeah,
so like I'm in, of course,
yeah,
but
I'm in. I have no there's not to me there's not clear direction. Like, oh, this is the obvious movie they're gonna make, or like this is the obvious like next step in their journey kind of thing. And so I'm just like,
yeah, season
it
3
needs
ends it kind of, you know.
yeah, it needs to be a really good idea. And I'm waiting until I hear what the idea is before I can really get excited about it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I do think the name is horrible. I agree.
Horrible.
It's a horrible name.
And
Um,
it could change. I mean, we're so far out. It
yeah,
could
we are.
change, but yeah. It
I
sounds
guess
like
the
a working title.
last thing I'll say was, we've especially in the beginning, we like oohed and awed over the quality of
Hmm.
Mando, and it felt like maybe we couldn't put a pin on it, but as the show went, they relied too much on the volume, and it become like the volume become its own look in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you look at something like the volume, and even whether you like it or not, you look at like the Rise of Skywalker, where Rise of
right.
Skywalker looks like a movie, and
Yeah.
this looks like uh the volume, like
A TV show.
super, super
Volume
well,
feels
super well done, like the quality, the
yeah.
visual effects, movie level. But it's still there's some type of disconnect that
You can
happened all of a
feel it.
sudden.
You can feel it. Yeah, yeah, and maybe it could be just like in the way the actors are lit. It could be just in the way that like, I mean, acting has to be so different on the volume versus like on set. You know what I
Well, to
mean?
be
Like,
fair, yeah, I mean, like a lot of the Marvel movies are using. I mean, the Batman used the volume in a lot of ways, but
sure, sure.
they used it in a sparingly, right?
Like when it had to be used, when there was no other way to kind of
Yeah.
manufacture this shot or this location. Sure.
So my
I think
so
it's
other
an
thing is,
incredible piece of technology. It's amazing. I just think I
well,
agree with you though that I do think it has been overused.
will audiences? Here's my question though. Will audiences be like, why would I go see this in theaters? Like, will there be a difference in quality? Will it feel like a movie versus what we've gotten on the show? Because again, there's a great argument to be made that like this looks like a movie. Like, I mean, it does in a lot of ways. It looks better than
Yeah,
most movies,
sure.
but
And
I can't explain it. I can't put my finger on it. What
well,
makes it feel different?
yeah, it's interesting. I do think there's a degree of like the Mando and Grogu characters. Do they have enough going on to fill the big screen, so to speak? Like, are they interesting enough characters to carry a plot heavy movie with three acts and stuff
Yeah,
like that? I think
I
like
absolutely think so. Yeah.
they can't. It's different though. Like popping in once a week to check on these characters and see what they're up to this time. Like there's a I have more patience for an episode that doesn't necessarily go anywhere, or You know what I mean? Like these episodes were like, that was fine. You know, that wasn't amazing. There was a nice little bit of action and this and that. But I mean, to me, they're going to have to like almost change the style of storytelling for the movie for it to work as a movie.
100%.
You know, and it's kind of a thing of like, is Mando and Baby Grogu big enough to pull that many butts into seats for a film versus waiting for it?
If it's good,
yeah, sure.
Yes,
but is it going to have to be a thing where it comes out and then everyone loves it and then people start coming in, or is it going to? I mean, yes, if they just come out with like the best trailers of all time and just like a killer marketing campaign, I'm sure they will make tons of money on opening weekend. But to me, it's just that they don't have the depth of a Luke Skywalker, of a Han Solo, of all these other characters to me that just like, it's a lot easier to do something interesting narratively with them because they've got all this backstory, they've got all these layers to their personality, and Grogu and Mando are pretty one note a piece. You know what I mean? And so maybe this movie is digging into that.
Characters, I think there's an argument to be made that there will be a Luke Skywalker in it, you know, or a Ahsoka could be in it.
Well,
you know, I think there's. Yeah.
And here's a question: do you think Mando's going to have his helmet on the whole movie?
I think he'll be off in scenes where he's by himself because they'll want to have Pedro at least one scene with his face, at least one scene in the movie.
At least,
I would think.
I mean, I could see it. I could see him end up taking it off for a portion of it. Honestly, I could see there being, they get captured or I don't know, something happens where they just, because it's a movie, they want more. I mean, Pedro Pascal is a big star. You know what I mean?
Well, that plus Fantastic Four coming out, and we don't know. It's pretty much confirmed. Like it sounds like he moves he quit another movie.
Yeah.
For Fantastic Four. So yeah, I don't know. It's a super interesting question. And I think that it will at least make 50 million opening weekend, at least, which is decent.
It's a Star Wars movie in theaters, yeah.
Yeah, and it, Baby Grogu is the biggest, and those two characters are the biggest thing to happen to Star Wars in the last 20 years.
Right. Yeah,
like
but they definitely are more. I mean, kids are more into Grogu than adults are. Gotta think. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Star Wars adults, not Star Wars adults.
Maybe so. Maybe I'm just an outlier. I mean, I think Grogu is cute, but he's also like,
yeah, that's why
he doesn't grab me on the screen necessarily either. Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
listen,
cool,
I want this movie to work and be great and all that. I do have my reservations, and this probably won't change until we see some marketing, some trailers and stuff.
Yeah, no, me too. I think first step is change your name to something cool and not the Mandalorian Grogu. It just sounds like shit, and I know why. It's like, you know, they should just call it Mandalorian Baby Yoda.
It's really very self-explanatory. Like everyone knows what this movie's about because of the title.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious to see how they're going to make it different than the show and make it worth. I'm there no matter what. I'm there 5 times. I've already bought 5 tickets, right? But I don't know how they're going to get everybody else in there because I want the property to thrive. Maybe we talk about this again next week, but there's all kinds of things of like, we know Dave Filoni's movie is still happening down the road. Ahsoka Season 2 is happening now. We still know these kind of things, and so I'm very curious to see what happens. With this, and again, it feels like this was season 4, and they condensed it down into one movie, which I'm not opposed to. It's like okay, if you feel like you can get season 4 into a movie, then season 4 should have been a show, I guess.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. How can listeners find us, Daniel?
Listeners, you can find us at bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you thought of Marvel's Echo or Dave Filoni, or I'm sorry, Jon Favreau's Star Wars movie, or the Sony Marvel movies, the bad ones, or anything we talked about today on the show, which was a bit of a smorgasbord episode. bit.ly/241mail. They are.
Or our pitch perfect Spider-Man 3 trilogy with Tom Holland.
Yes.
That's a great idea. We're here all day. We're here all day, everyone. Kevin Feige. I promise you we're cheaper than your other writers.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
We'll take a non-SAG rate or a non-WGA rate for the first one.
Yes. For draft 1 of the first one. Alrighty, everyone. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.
Bye.